And that's what I love about him. He may be the stickiest corner in this class.
Roger McCreary, quarterback from Auburn, 5'1", 390 pounds, 28 7/8 on the arms, ran a verified 4.5 flat at the 2022 NFL Combine. You cut on the tape on this guy, Dre. Man coverage, he's really sticky. He's physical, he's combative, good foot speed, good physicality. What do you like the most about Roger, and do you think he can consistently play as a primary outside corner at the NFL level with that length issue?
There are a few things that I really like about this player. One, he's competitive, man. He's really competitive at the catch point. He's got good closing quickness, especially when he's playing in off man. You really love that about him. And I thought that he grew a lot from his junior season to his senior season. I thought he made strides, right? And he is one of the players whose skill set I believe gives him true value both inside and outside. And I don't know that there are too many corners within that top tier, along with Trent, of course, that have true inside outside flex. Now, there will be some issues as far as the arm length goes, but I think the guys that have the hips and have the feet and have the quickness to be able to stay in phase, it kind of makes the lack of length as important. So it's not something I have a real concern about. I do think he can play on the outside. He's probably a guy that's probably best on the inside, but I do think he can play outside as well. And really think that this is a guy whose best football is probably ahead of him. So
we had a chance to talk with Roger on Draft Dudes, Joe and I, and he talked about that jump to his final season, and he talked about the coaching change where they were very high volume press and man coverage defense under the previous regime, and then this year under Coach Harsin, they had a lot more zone coverage that was implemented. He talked about how all that man coverage has kind of developed his football IQ and got him to a point where now where they were playing a little bit more variety in coverage, it felt like it set him up for really be successful and contributed to that leap in play, being a little bit more versatile in the coverages that they played on the back end. Would love to hear from the rest of you guys as far as McCreary, his projection, what you like about him, what you guys make of inside outside. I think that's going to be a pretty prominent conversation piece around his resume for a lot of NFL teams.
I like Roger McCreary, and I love his competitiveness. You know what I mean? And you watch him, and I know you guys sat down talking, but you see his game, and you see a confident corner that, he understands I have sub 30-inch arms, but I don't really care. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm still going to be in your hip pocket. Doesn't matter if you're Jamison Williams in Alabama or if you're John Mechie. I'm still going to be able to carry you vertically and still be competitive at the catch point too. That is like the height really doesn't – the height and the arm length doesn't really affect him in his own mind, right? So it's something he's aware of, but in a good sense. I do think he's probably going to be more regulated into the slot because of those situations, but he's a guy that can play outside in a pinch, or it depends on the matchup, because like Dre said on our meeting when he talked about him, he plays a lot of soft press where he's not overly aggressive in the contact window for these bigger receivers to be physical with him and just toss him to the side and, out physical him and get into their stem. He's going to be able to mirror, show good foot quickness, good. He's on his toes, and he's able to he's fluid with his movements to mirror and match. I love his hips to be able to turn and transition so well, oily. They're real oily, and that's what I love about him. He may be the stickiest corner in this class.
Well, I mean, you mentioned he's sticky in coverage, and we talked a lot about length and why it matters for cornerbacks, and it's all about that margin for error where, hey, maybe you're not completely in phase, but you have that length to kind of make up the difference. And with Roger, because he is so sticky, I think it does mitigate some of the concerns about his length, and he's a really good tackler, and he's really good ball skills. I mean, I think his ball production is as good as anybody in this class, and that's with short arms, right? So that speaks to him being smart in coverage, instinctive in coverage, and sticky in coverage. And so once you get past the length here, I think that there's so much to like. But even with the length, you have to be mindful of how much it didn't limit him in the SEC.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mentioned this before. He does exactly what a cornerback is supposed to do, and that's make the quarterback make a great throw. Like, that's what he does because
Good
he's
point.
always in phase. He's always right there. So in order to complete the pass on him, the quarterback has to be extremely accurate. And we've seen that they have to be on time because, Damon, you brought up that Alabama game. How many times did he just disrupt timing, right? Like, they almost beat Alabama, and that wasn't a very good Auburn team. But Roger McCreary, he competed the whole night long. And I like to see that because, especially if I'm a franchise trying to turn things around, I want that guy on my team. Like, you know what? We're the underdogs, but we're going to go in here and battle. You know, they kind of have some stuff to them. Like, they had that confidence and that pride in their game. So I think the biggest word is just appreciation for this guy because there may be some physical limitations, but man, this guy battles.
Well, and Jameson was ejected in the first half of that game, so he got a good taste of Jameson, and then he gets ejected, and then he stays on Mechie. And we go check out the player profiles on both those guys. We talk about how different they are as receivers, and that was the game of his life.
Yep.
As far as how good he played in coverage, and they went after him. I mean, they consistently threw the ball at him, and he
confident.
Yep.
He carried Jameson Williams vertically like 2 or 3 times in that game, and he didn't really. He wasn't fazed by, especially the most dynamic receiver in his class.
And you also consider they had a game against Penn State, and he played a very good football game, logged an interception down the field against Penn State. Jahan Johnson and Parker Washington, who's not in this year's class, but is another very good wide receiver that Penn State has. He's been battle tested, and he's going to be ready for the next level based on all the good receivers. I mean, go look at the receivers he's faced throughout the course of his career at Auburn as a starting corner, primarily as a man guy.
Yep.
It's just a question of, okay, is the team going to feel more comfortable playing him in the nickel? And if they are, with his attitude, with his tackling, with his physicality, with how often teams are in nickel right now, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just not the traditional high-round draft selection that you would take a corner for with that role to play him on the outside.
I'm glad that you said that because I think that people need to realize that playing inside, it takes a different type of skill set. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that the guy plays inside. In fact, it's a compliment because you got to be able to tackle. You got to be able to have the shiftiness because guys have a two-way go, right? So the skill set and the confidence and the physicality to play inside, I mean, is
a whole different animal.
It's a great thing, yes.
Roger McCreary, keep an eye out. Probably going to go sometime on day 2. He's a consensus second-round grade for us here at TDN.